Hello, everybody. My name is Carl Penick, and today I'll be going over my research or my presentation on how I've been able to incorporate internationalization and global topics in my research over the years that I've been here in the Honors College. So, beginning with my current research project, this is a project that I'm doing for Honors Art History 1304. And I'm having a lot of fun with this one. I actually started my research with a focus on the Swedish artist John Bauer, and then I took some of his work and I was able to connect it with another artist that I actually discovered alongside this research, whose name is Viktor Vesnetsov. I was able to connect these two based on their depictions of both cultural folktales and also their contributions to their respective national romanticism movements. I thought these two artists were really interesting because they were able to combine not only artwork but also depictions of their culture and their traditional heritage and sort of put it all together, especially during a time of like globalization and modernization. And they were able to counteract those events that would somewhat take away from their culture and bring it back through a cultural revival, through their artwork and through their depictions of traditional topics. I thought that was really interesting. And of course, it's internationalized because this is going over two different cultures, two different countries, and it is covering how they would have handled very similar topics. And this research was very invaluable to me. Even though I'm still doing this research, it's still in the works. I think it's taking me very far in learning how to handle international topics and being able to contribute my own ideas because I'm Swedish. That's why I started this research with a Swedish artist. And I'm really learning how to open my eyes to other topics as well that involve different cultures. An international topic that I have done in the past is for Honors US History 1301. This is actually the topic that I did last semester. And as I did with the topic of Swedish artists, I actually began this one with the topic of Swedish history in America. And I was able to take the Swedish history to learn about the Swedish attempts at American colonization in the experiment of New Sweden, and I was able to learn all sorts about that. And I learned how the Swedish settlers interacted with the Dutch, and eventually, as well as the Native Americans during their settlement and their ultimate loss of power in 1664. This all was sort of brought together with my research question of to what extent did the Dutch West India Company show leniency to the Swedish settlers during their occupation of New Sweden from 1655 to 1664. The most interesting part about this research was that I discovered that the Dutch were the ones who conquered New Sweden and sort of took the Swedish power out of America. But despite all this, they did not prosecute the Swedish settlers. Despite conquering them, they actually welcomed them into their society. And this was very important research, to me at least, because it helped me understand how international relations worked back in the day. Maybe they were connected with similar identities because they were both European, but even then they were so different. They had different cultures, they had different languages, and yet they remained civil together. So this really helped me learn about how they all came together and showed peace to each other in times of conflict. I believe that my research throughout my years in the Honors College has been greatly beneficial in order to expand my cultural competency. For example, I used my knowledge of Swedish culture as a stepping stone to expand my knowledge into other cultures. While I did use my cultural identity of being Swedish as a stepping stone, I used it in a way that didn't limit my view to just Swedish culture, but also in a way that would expand it into others, because I have the experience of seeing things from perhaps an American point of view and maybe a Swedish point of view. And so having those two perspectives helped me open up and maybe add even a third international lens where I can look at something from an unbiased perspective. I've also been able to compare Swedish heritage, Swedish culture, and Swedish art through my research project this semester, where I was looking at art, and also how I've been able to look at history from many different lenses, from different experiences, from different cultures, in both of these research projects. And it's just been very beneficial to me, and I really appreciate having the experience of doing all of this research. Next, I really believe that the international competency that I've been able to train throughout my time in international research will be so beneficial when I eventually look into bringing this experience into my career. The career that I've chosen that I want to pursue is political science, with an intended focus on transportation infrastructure. My main focus is going to be transportation infrastructure, possibly, but I believe that political science will be able to push me the extra mile in actually learning how to build relations not only domestically but also internationally. I really want to make international comparisons between transportation infrastructure. I want to be able to compare how the United States handles transportation to other countries. Perhaps we can look outside of our borders to see, is anybody doing anything better? What can we learn from the outside world? I want to also be able to understand international politics. Learning international politics is going to be so beneficial because I really want to be able to learn from different cultures, and being able to build a relationship with those cultures will be very beneficial in sharing knowledge and sharing resources. I also want to build international relationships to promote the use of sustainable transportation methods. Again, this is going back to what I said about being able to look to our international neighbors to see what they are doing differently. Maybe we can look to them to construct something that works better than what we already have today. And that is ultimately how I believe that international relations and international competency will really help me to exceed in my career in the future. Thank you so much. My name is Carl Penick, and this has been my presentation. Thank you for watching.